If you ever needed a reason to buy a house, this is it. And now is the time to do it. But Josh, don't you know housing market crash is coming? Oh my goodness. In fact, let's look at my, I typed in housing market crash in my YouTube feed here. Look at all these fools. You won't believe what Wall Street is doing to the housing market now, says whoever that is. Some chick says, the housing market crack is coming, buckle up. Some idiot says, the 2025 housing crash has begun. Foreclosure spikes, says these fools. The housing market is beginning to crack, says that fool. Right here. The biggest housing market crash of our lifetime, says idiots. The housing crash is coming, says that guy. The biggest housing market crash in U.S. history. Here's this guy right here. This is exactly what happens right before housing prices drop. At least he says drop, not crash. Unstoppable housing market crashes, Peter. Dude, this is... Oh, my... It's so freaking stupid. Anyway, to say anything positive never gets views. Look how many views these people getting, by the way. 29K, 211K, 55K, 139K. Peter Schiff's get 1.4 million. I'm going to show you one thing and one thing only that you need to see. All right, and this is on my LinkedIn page, and you should follow me on LinkedIn right here. We got 2,022 followers. Me and my buddy Pablo right there. Look at Pablo's crushing. And here's why. And that's not just LinkedIn. I post this on my socials. I posted, I think, even on YouTube, as a matter of fact, the community page, what the hell it's called. All right, so let's. So X, I post on X. X, I get a little bit more frothy on X. So if you don't like frothy, Josh, that's the right word. You probably don't want to follow me there. But hey, man, if you want to follow me, I just passed 1,000 followers there. LinkedIn, I'm a little bit less frothy. There's got to be another word, controversial, let's say. Ooh, your opinions are interesting. I don't want to sign up for your newsletter. Facebook, I go nuts. My Facebook personal page, I go nuts. My Facebook Heritage Wealth Planning page, I don't go as nuts. But X, I'm nuts on X, that's for sure. When I say nuts, I'm like, I no holds bar. Anyway, so check this out. I say, I get so tired of the housing market is going to crash narrative. Look at this graph right here. All right, so the blue is the number of units being built. In 2025, this from not BLS, Fred. All right, St. Louis Federal Reserve Board. Right here, we have about 240,000 units being built in 2025, or 2024, I guess. Yeah, 2024. How many did we have in 1960? We had more housing units being built in 1960 than we have right now. This right here is a population. We got over 330 million people in the United States. In 1960, we had about 150 or so million people. So the population has doubled, all right? The number of housing units has stagnated. It hasn't increased at all. On top of that, not only has the population doubled, the actual household size has decreased from 3.3 people per household to 2.5 people per household. So if we just take our trusty calculator, let me find it real quick. We had 150 million people divided by 3.3 people per household. We had 45 million households back in 1960. Now we got 330 million people divided by 2.5 people per household. We have almost, we have 3 times as many households as what we had back then. So now we have more household units, not units in terms of houses, household units. I mean, you get this, right? We have more household units that need a place to live. We have 100 and whatever the hell that was, 130 million household units that need roof over the head. And yet we're building the same amount of houses that we did when we had a third or 2/3 less, essentially, or 3/4 less, whatever the hell it is. Does that make any sense? In fact, look at here. The max we had in terms of building, other than 2006, 7, and 8, or probably 2004 to 2006. Look at this. Other than this right here, we haven't hardly built any houses at all over the last 40 years relative to where we were before. Now, people will say, yeah, but these are all in inventory, Josh. The inventory's grown. Yeah, the inventory's grown. With older houses! I mean, the housing inventory is getting older and older and older. What does that mean? That means these houses need to be replaced. And you're not being replaced by housing starts. They're just not showing up. So people are living in older houses. And yet we're not building enough new houses to replace the old ones. And we have a significant size difference in terms of the number of household units that need a place to live. What does that mean? That means the demand has shot through the roof and the supply has plummeted. Look at this. A massive plummet of supply. And on top of that, the inventory is antiquated. On top of that, by the way, you got less and less people who have the skill set to build houses. You know, we have a net migration in the negative for the first time in 50 years or something like that because Trump is crushing. So you have less unskilled labor to do these houses from abroad, thank the good Lord. All right, you got more units competing to buy a house, a significant more amount of people, and you got an antiquated inventory. That means the supply is way down, the demand is way up, regardless of what interest rates do. This does not bode well for the market crash doomsayers. It just does not. In fact, my daughter, I say, look, man, because she's just a couple years in her professional career. I said, when you guys get married, her and her boyfriend, you got to buy a house ASAP. So they're saving money for a down payment. Because I said, man, these house prices aren't going to go down. I mean, again, could they go down a little bit? Sure. My housing, the value of my home supposedly has fallen like 2% over the last year or something like that. I don't know, whatever. I mean, 2% over that mass run up. Come on, dude. Oh my goodness, a crash. And even if it fell 5%. It could. I don't know. But over the run up that we've had over the last 5 years, a 5% decline ain't nothing, dude. A housing market crash, even along the lines of 2008, it's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You have too many people who need a place to live and too few places to live. That's just a fact. And when you have a massive demand and the supply stagnating, if not dropping, and then the people who can build that supply dropping as well, that does not bode well for the housing market crash prognosticators. It means housing prices are going to keep going up. And this goes into my reverse mortgage theory too. Remember, reverse mortgage, if you have a reverse mortgage, your home value is still growing at whatever the clip is. Right? So the reverse mortgage in of itself, yes, is eating into your house value if your house value wasn't growing, but the reverse mortgage in of itself, if your house is growing, isn't eating into it to the way these anti-reverse mortgage people say, because your house is still appreciating in value. It's the weirdest thing how people don't get this. Strange. You have a small contingent of a loan against it. That's even if you borrow from me. I'm just taking home the line of credit and let that puppy grow, whatever the interest rate is. And I'll pay whatever escrow I have to out of pocket in terms of annual maintenance fees and all that stuff and closing cost. But then you're like, okay, my home is still appreciating. Again, I can't guarantee, most likely. My mortgage, if I even have a reverse mortgage, that is going into my equity for sure. But my equity is still growing. In fact, because I have such a large house value, and if my house grows 3 to 4%, it'll dwarf what the low amount of borrowing I have against a reverse mortgage, even if the reverse mortgage interest is that much higher. People don't get it, man. It's weird. Let me just I'll illustrate this for you. So here we have a reverse mortgage, $200,000. It's costing us 7.5% in interest. Here we have our home value. It's appreciating at 4% a year interest. We'll just use that for 1 year example. How much does that 7.5% interest cost on that $200,000? $15,000. All right. How much does the interest, the appreciation on that $1 million grow to? Well, we take $1 million times 4, that's $40,000. So we've increased our home equity by $25,000 in this regard. We used to have $800,000 of home equity. Now we got 1.4. Let's see, what do we got here? We got $800,000. We got $825,000 of home equity. We've improved our home equity in that one scenario, even though the interest rate on the reverse mortgage is higher than the interest rate on the appreciation we're getting. Again, that doesn't mean everyone rushes out to do reverse mortgage. I just don't think people get the numbers, man. It's unfortunate. All right. Love your thoughts. God bless. Obviously, if you have the ability to help your kids or grandkids with a down payment, you should. You've got to be a good steward of God's money, man. God did not put you on this earth to be a narcissist spendthrift. He put you on this earth to help his fellow creation. All right, God bless. We'll see you. Smash that like button.